and welcome to Finextra. I'm Thea George and I'm here with Vincent Brennan from Bank of Ireland and the EBA. We're at Cybos 2016 in Geneva and we're talking about open APIs. Vincent, thank you for joining me.
Good morning, how are you?
So there's a huge discussion here at Cybos about open APIs, open banking. What's your take on that?
Yeah, there's no question it's a huge debate. I guess it's fueled by two things. One is the Payment Service Directive 2 and particularly the access to account provisions. So that's driving the debate on one side. And then on the other side you have the technological development in terms of APIs, which have become so commonplace in a lot of other industries and really now need to show their face in the banking space. From an EBA point of view, we published a paper for EBA Day in June focused on the practicalities of APIs and open banking for banks. And as is typical of our publications, we try to focus in on a number of aspects. Firstly, to explain the key concept behind APIs and open bankings for our members, to tease out some of the technical elements. So for example, APIs for banks need to focus not alone on technical aspects, but on legal, operational and other aspects as well, so that it's more holistic. We started to look at how APIs have been leveraged in other industries and how might that read across to banks. And where we finished up was moving away from pure API debate, but to look at what are the business model implications for banks. And effectively that came down to a conversation about two things. How in an open banking world could banks consider sourcing products or services and distributing products and services? Banks traditionally produce their own products and services, distribute to them to customers. In an open API, open banking world, there's much more opportunity in terms of whose products am I sourcing and distributing and how am I distributing them. And effectively, as we do in a lot of our papers, we're trying to encourage our members to take the broader business model implications into account. So, it's only 4 or 5 months since and the debate has just heated up and it's a very live topic here at Cybos.
So how do you think banks need to organise themselves to take advantage of the API opportunity?
Yeah, it's interesting. For us, there's two approaches in organising. The first is internally. So over the last number of years with advancements in alternative payments in terms of channels, with customers wanting to bank or purchase anytime, any place with any device, the preserve within the bank of discussions on payments is no longer just a discussion for payment practitioners. Within the bank internally you've got to organise the cards teams, the payments teams, the channels teams, the technology teams, and even increasingly the security and the data teams around one conversation. In smaller banks like Bank of Ireland, that's somewhat more straightforward to do, but in very large banks, multinational banks, who are, structured, differently, breaking across those silos is quite a challenge too. So the first thing in terms of how to organise is get organised internally. But then when you look at a concept like open APIs and open banking, the secret is in the word open, and it means opening out to others, be that fintechs, be that other suppliers. So again, banks have to come at this in the context of who amongst the players out there would I consider collaborating with? How will I organise to do that? Do I do that on a single bank basis? Should we consider doing that at an industry basis? And you see, for example, industries such as the Open Banking Initiative in the UK organising themselves around taking a common approach to it. There'll still be plenty of space in the competitive space for individual banks to play out on the proposition front, but at least getting organised in terms of some of the standard and the approach size to it. So it's a case of getting organised internally as well as externally.
What do you think will be the next milestones in the discussion of open banking and open APIs?
Well, for us at the EBA, that's going to take place on two frontings. From a work group point of view, we've renamed the group that I chair, which till now has been the Alternative Payments Working Group. We've renamed it the Open Banking Working Group because that's where we're going to put our focus, and it's a continuation or a continuum of the work that we've been doing. So we're going to focus on four things. One is how do we complement the paper we published last June with additional promotional materials that our colleagues in our membership can use to get the story around, get the debate going within their own organisation. Second is to continue to monitor the developments and keep reporting on that back to the board and to the members. The third is to look at the other EBAs, the European banking authorities, regulatory technical standards from the point of view of what are the implications of that from a business point of view as opposed to a technical point of view. And then finally, we're going to produce a publication for the back end of this year, which pulls together the strands of a number of our papers, which now, in an era of open banking, are much more actionable. So that's from a working group point of view. Second major development was the association announced recently that it's about to launch an open forum on open banking to encourage the various participants in the industry, not just banks, not just fintechs, but consumer groups, other business groups, all interested parties to come and have this discussion in terms of how we could take that forward. In the interest of openness, we're having two co-chairs. We're having Gilbert Lichter, former EBA Secretary General, will co-chair it with the head of FinTech Holland, Dan Gisling. Again, to demonstrate that it is open and that it's seeing this as a multi-lateral debate, and also to encourage wide participation. So for us, with the working group fueling some of the information and debate into the open forum and the open forum acting as a catalyst, these two initiatives in second half of this year and running towards EBA Day in Dublin next year will start to drive out some key milestones for EBA. Meanwhile, for all of the banks, January 2018 for PSD2 is looming, and regulatory technical standards application by mid-2018 is looming. So there's no shortage of milestones and deadlines ahead.
Vincent, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
And thank you for watching.